Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, we are ready for the event.
Houston Chronicle, this is Mission Control. Houston, please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is the Houston Chronicle. How do you hear me?
Houston Chronicle, space station here. We hear you loud and clear.
Well, good afternoon, guys.
Well, welcome aboard. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I know Andre and Don are going to be coming home in the not-too-distant future, and I want to tell you guys it was 105 in Houston this week. How much are you looking forward to coming home?
It's a nice 21 degrees centigrade up here, and it's been that way ever since we showed up. So we're living in an isothermal environment.
Yeah, it's a constant temperature on the station then all the time?
Pretty much. There are some locations that are hotter by a few degrees and some locations that are cooler by a few degrees, but pretty much it's isothermal, which sounds nice, but when you're used to temperature swings on Earth, it's interesting how much you miss having a bit of cold or a bit of hot or a bit of medium when the temperatures are the same every single day, day in, day out. It's a different kind of a sensation.
Yeah. What other things like that have you noticed while you've been up there?
Well, what I noticed is the fact that after a while microgravity becomes so normal that the special aspect is a bit lost. And all of a sudden, if I have a pen floating in front of me, I think, well, this is strange. This pen is floating. So even after 190 days, sometimes I still get surprised by the fact that we float, because we're so used to fix things, because floating is actually a bit dangerous, because you can lose things. So I'm so used to fixing things, fixing myself, that now and then when I see something floating, I think, well, this is very special actually.
That's interesting. So down here on the ground, there's been talk about possibly adding another astronaut to the crew. I assume there's plenty of room up there for that?
Yeah, I guess we're a little bit out of the loop up here. We've heard a little bit about that. The resources we'll have available. You get used to having the three of us here on the USOS side, and I'll be alone here shortly when these two gentlemen take off on Saturday. But if they want to send a fourth person up here to help us work, that'd be great.
What about Soyuz? I mean,
would there be the ability to do a lot more science, I would guess, with another person?
It would certainly help. The more bodies we have up here, the more we can distribute the work and specialize in some respects, so that some folks focus on some aspects of science and some folks focus on fixing the systems. And you can get that kind of specialization when the crew size gets larger. And what's interesting is, what crew size do you need to have a full-time cook? It's interesting to look at scientific expeditions going out, and at what point do you need to have a full-time cook so that everybody else can concentrate on getting the science mission done?
That's interesting. So I was blown away a few weeks ago by a photo that Andre took of the Himalayas above the cloud layer. I'm wondering what you thought of when you saw that from space, because the photo you took was absolutely amazing.
Well, I have to say that the Earth is amazing every day. That is a bit. Every time I look out the window, it's fantastic, and you try do your best to capture that feeling, that sensation that you have. And I'm glad that was such a nice picture. But there are plenty more of such great pictures taken by every crew here on the space station, because every time you look at the planet, it's awesome.
Well, yes, Don, I saw some amazing time-lapse photography by Don. Most of this is taken from the cupola. I guess it's allowed these photographs to be taken, or do you get them from elsewhere as well?
The cupola is the prime place for doing Earth observations. Other windows are available. These windows right behind us here in the JPM module are outstanding windows to take pictures of Earth through, and there are windows in the Russian segment that are also excellent windows to take pictures of Earth.
What's the most amazing thing you've seen, Don, in your time up there?
Gosh, that's like asking what's your favorite food. It kind of depends on your mood. Probably the transit of Venus is pretty high on the list. The solar eclipse is another one. This is my second solar eclipse I've seen. Both of them have been from space. And then Aurora Borealis, Aurora Australis is just amazing. Each display is different and captivates you. And then there's polar mesospheric clouds, also known as noctilucent clouds. These are another favorite hobby science area of mine. And this mission, I've been fortunate enough to see both southern hemisphere clouds, which are only visible during the winter time, and now we're into the summertime, northern hemisphere noctilucent cloud season. So to be able to see both of these clouds in one mission, I think, is a real treat.
So there was a lot of attention with the SpaceX docking. From your perspective, did everything go okay, and are you excited to see more missions from them in the future to the space station?
Yeah, it was a great moment, and as you know, we train for all kind of difficult situations, and in reality, it went very smooth. So that was a very great moment for everybody. Everybody was, of course, tensed first time. How will it behave? Yeah, it was. We realized that it was a special moment, and this will be the future of spaceflight. There will be commercial companies taking over, and that's the idea. The agencies will continue to explore and go further, and then commercial and industry on the ground will take over the use of a low Earth orbit. So I think this was a great moment, the first step of a new era.
Do any of you think
and I'd like to add that I hope in the future. I'd like to add that I hope in the future that these things become so routine that journalists just go ho-hum, another visiting commercial vehicles dock at the space station, and they'll hardly take note. And that, I think, would be the sign of the technology moving in the right direction.
Did any of you think that, wow, one day I'll probably be flying on one of these things?
I think we've all thought about that, and of course we all want to come back to the space station. It's a wonderful place to live and to work, and to see Dragon come up here and it performed flawlessly, and it was a great success. If we can utilize that service to get astronauts up here to continue the work, and maybe someday we can even get more people up here. We've talked about that also, that we're very fortunate to be here, and if more people can experience that, the better.
So finally, Don, I wanted to ask you, I saw your diary of a space zucchini, and I was just wondering if the personification of vegetables is a spaceflight related disorder.
It may very well be that, among other various disorders. That's an interesting thought. It's probably space dementia.
Hey, guys, thanks very much. Have a great day.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the Houston Chronicle portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from National Public Radio.
Station, this is National Public Radio. How do you hear me?
NPR, we hear you loud and clear.
I hear you guys loud and clear, too. It's better than my cell phone connection. So Expedition 31 flight engineers Joe Acaba, Andre Kuipers, and Don Pettit, thanks for talking to us from space today. Don Pettit and Andre Kuipers, you've been there, I think, about 6 months now. Are you ready to come home, or does it feel like you've just gotten there?
Well, actually, I think I'm ready because I like to see the family again. That's a long period, but there's so much things to see, so much things to do that I would love. In that sense, I would love to stay longer, or better, to come back here. It would be great to be up here to serve 2-3 weeks a year as a holiday after this. It's a fantastic place, and yeah, I have to go back, but I like to come back too.
And I just ran out of vitamin supplements, so I figured it's time for me to go home.
Don Pettit, walk us through how you'll get back to our planet this weekend.
We will get in our Soyuz spacecraft, and under the command of Oleg Kononenko, and Andre Kuipers will be flight engineer 1 or board engineer 1, and I'm board engineer 2. And we work together to get this spacecraft back home, starting off with undocking. Well, we start off, we get inside, we close the hatch, we have to do a leak check, make sure the hatches don't leak. And then we strap in and undock, and then we do a deorbit burn. And then as we hit the atmosphere, the spacecraft separates so that only the descent module comes through the atmosphere in one piece, and then our parachute comes out, and we go thump, roll on the steps of Kazakhstan.
That is amazing. What is this centaur garment that I read about?
The Centaur. The Centaur, think of it as spandex on steroids, and it's it's this tight garment that just goes around. It's like a pair of boxer shorts for your waist area, and then you have another spandex thing that goes around your calf. And then when you wear this medical harness, you kind of look like you walked from the scene of Gladiator. And then and what this does is it keeps the lower part of your body from getting bloated with all the water running downhill after we've returned to Earth. So it has a medical purpose to it.
Not your everyday Spanx, I guess. Joe Acaba, Andre Kuipers, you've been studying the human condition in space. Have you found any differences in how our bodies behave in weightlessness?
Well, I think there's a lot of different things that happen to us while we're up here. Of course, you're all familiar with the fluid shift, and when you say astronauts have big heads, it's really it's a physical feature that we have while we're up here. But the body, it's amazing to me. I've been here for about a month now, how quickly you do adapt to being up in space, and after just a few days, it's just a natural environment to be in.
Really, what about your senses? Do you find that when you drop things, you still look down, or do you acclimate to no gravity?
Well, we get used to it, but it's still sometimes troublesome if you lose something, how to find it back. Also, because you tend to focus on the walls and the floors, and it may just be floating just in front of it, and you might just miss it. It's amazing how you can look around for something which is right in front of you. So that's still going on, and I think our brain has a hard time to deal with the 3 dimensions, but we are careful to prevent it. So everything we have, we fix it with Velcro, with tape, with bungee cords. So we are pretty good in preventing to lose something.
You know, one of our favorite topics on Science Friday are the microbes that live in and on us. I wonder, have you guys looked at how microbes respond to space, or if the same microorganisms live with us when when you're on space station?
I think the microbes are with us whether we like it or not, and as far as I know, the behavior of a single microbe in weightlessness is probably close to what it is in gravity. What may be different would be cultures. If you had a tank of fluid filled with some kind of microbes, they may clump in the absence of gravitational-driven buoyancy forces. They may clump in a manner that's different than the same culture growing on Earth. So there may be some interesting three-dimensional structure in colonies of microorganisms, and that in itself may affect the way the colony grows as a whole. So you bring up an interesting question. Maybe that could be a future Saturday morning science.
I hope so. So about a month ago, we watched you guys capture the Dragon, and actually we literally watched you capture the Dragon. We huddled around this computer in the Science Friday office, and you made it look just effortless. But how was it for you? Was it a stressful day in the office?
Yeah, I think you could call it a stressful day in the office. It's something that we'd practiced for, and we'd practiced 27 different ways with 27 different kinds of malfunctions. And what happens if A happens, then we do B, and if B doesn't work, we do C, and so on and so forth. And personally, I was happy everything was nominal. When you're working in a frontier like this, you don't want to be a hero where you jump up and save the day. You'd rather have everything be nominal so that nobody has to be a hero and save the day. And fortunately, that's the way Dragon turned out. And it turned out that way primarily because of all the hardworking folks on the ground that had sharpened their pencils and done really good job of the engineering.
We heard a lot about Dragon, but were there other events that happened in Space Station? Another top event that you think should have gotten more due that we haven't heard about as much?
Well, we're doing a lot of fascinating science, and sometimes that doesn't get as much headline news as these single events. And I think one of the reasons why is that science in the process of being made isn't necessarily exciting. In fact, some people might call it boring. If you're sitting in front of a piece of scientific equipment, maybe a glove box, and your hands are poking in there, and maybe you scratch your nose every so often with your shoulder because you can't because your hands are in the glove box, and someone watching you do that is just going to be bored. But the science that's going on in the glove box may be really, really exciting, and so when the documentary is made in 10 years, the professional journalists and actors will be able to make it exciting. But the course of a real scientist doing real science, I think it's pretty dry.
Oh, John, I think you do a pretty good job to my mind. So I wondered, were there challenges to living in Space Station that you hadn't foreseen, or did this experience test you in ways that you didn't expect, maybe?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of challenges up here, and I think you really notice it at the end of the day when you're really, really tired. Like Andre was saying before, you always have to be aware of things that might float away. If you're working a procedure, you don't want to miss a step that could be critical, that could break some equipment. And so everything you do, from when you wake up in the morning and you have breakfast to using the bathroom to the procedures you do use all day, it is really, really tiring. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I noticed since I've been up here.
I think we have just a little under a minute left, so maybe as a quick ender, are there qualities that you would identify for a long-term mission now that you've spent so much time up in space?
Yes, what I would do is any prospective crew member, I would go and look in their garage. And if their garage is a mess, a hodgepodge, then that would be an automatic disqualifier. If their garage is nice and neat, then you know that they are going to be able to take care of all the equipment on space station and put everything away in its proper place.
Thank you so much, Expedition 31 flight engineers Joe Acaba, Andre Kuipers, and Don Pettit. Thank you for talking to us on Science Friday from the International Space Station today.
It's been a pleasure by now. Science Friday is one of my favorite NPR stations.
Thank you, Don, and safe trip back to Earth.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes the event.
Thank you, Houston Chronicle and National Public Radio Station. We're now resuming operational audio communications. And Don, I just cleaned my garage last week.